All right, welcome back. So we're going to jump right in the bottom of this hour and talk about people strategy or talent strategy, whatever you call it, whatever your organization calls it, and specifically how it can facilitate agility and what I call elasticity. And so with that, I just want to level set and say solutions right now, and this is true pre-COVID, but certainly now, they need to happen fast. They need to happen at scale, and they also need to be sustainable. We can't just have one-offs. They need to be something that are going to last and stick around. After all, this condition that we're in is not going away anytime soon. Also, we need to be creating a systematic approach. And again, when I talk about systematic, I am not only talking about across the organization or across functions, I'm talking about people, process, technology, and the data that goes across those. And ultimately, we have analytics that sits on top of those. So this is one mental model to keep in mind. I mean, going back to my consulting days at EY and was right after the Arthur Young, Ernst and Winnie merger to go back in history. And we talked about people, process, and technology all the time. And governance and data and analytics certainly emerged over time and how we fit in. And of course, it goes across all of those. After all, people are actually doing the analytics in what I would call people analytics 1.0, where they're actually doing research. So they can enter in their bias, they can enter in some great insights and ideas. At the end of the day, we have to think about who is the customer of analytics and what are they going to do with it. So let's talk about that because that's going to talk about the strategy formulation process. So, what is a people strategy or talent strategy? I put it into four buckets. We have talent acquisition, we have talent development, we have communications and culture, and finally, total rewards. Underneath those are a variety of, for lack of a better term, sub processes like recruiting, selection, onboarding for talent acquisition. For talent development, of course, we have learning, goal setting, assessments and development, internal mobility. So on down the line, I'm not going to go through all these buckets. Beyond that, we have a host of technologies that are capturing data throughout these. And the bottom three are often captured in what is known as the employee experience. I would also talk about the worker experience to include contractors and others. And then at the top, associated with talent acquisition, we have the candidate experience. But again, there's a host of technologies and data that are being collected in these underlying processes. They're managed by HRIT and operations, and then you have people analytics and planning sitting over here. Sometimes, ideally, they're joined at the hip, and potentially even a better scenario, they are joined by a leader who's actually connecting the dots between them. So, what is the mandate of people analytics and planning? Well, ultimately, they're understanding the business reality that's before them and the strategies that have been put in place. They understand the leaders' questions that need to be answered, and there's also being attentive to the questions that leaders should be asking that they're not. And because ultimately it's a circular dynamic where they're going to be delivering insight that's going to inform the strategies and address the reality that's before them. But they're going to then scope analytical projects. And so again, speed, sustainability, scale, and then they're going to prioritize these projects. And in a next segment, we're going to talk about how to prioritize projects, but we're not going to do that today. Then you actually go do the work. And when you prioritize projects and you go do the work, there needs to be an understanding by those who are commissioning the people analytics team that there's ample resources to actually do what needs to be done. And again, we have to think about people, process, technology, and the data. And the data is even more interesting given where we are today than historically, because we can acquire data externally and bring it into our analyses. So again, is that data appropriate? Does it cost money? How do we manage the security and so forth? Finally, after we do the analytical projects, we have to package and communicate the insights. And if there are insights that are driving action, we measure those over time through KPIs, performance targets, and what have you. All of this is what I call strategy formulation, measurement, and management. And if we think about it that way, how are we actually formulating our strategy? How are we measuring the strategy? And how are we managing over time? If we do this, we can create this circular dynamic that I referred to before, where the insights that we're generating are offering ideas on how we adjust our strategy as we proceed over the course of time. And that, of course, is going to inform the work that we do within our people analytics team. So again, there's more to share on this. So hopefully you found this valuable. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with Sharon Yaroslavsky, the founder and CEO of Cassiopeia.